In the studio is our friend Philip Gunn. Good morning, sir. How are you? It's good to have you.
Hello, Mr. Gallo. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me back.
Wow, it is a pleasure, sir. I was just looking at this bill, House Bill 1991 from Trey Lamar, an act to amend the section. Is this one just dropped? Gross proceeds of sales, gross income, installation changes or charges under the state sales tax laws. I know we were going to have a bill that maybe would address the income tax sales, personal income tax, not sales, but personal income tax.
Correct.
And apparently this is the one, I think it's 1991. I'll have to double check that one.
Okay.
But it was something that a lot of people may not have expected, but your thoughts on that?
Well, Trey Lamar has been a big champion for elimination of the income tax. As you recall, when my last couple of 3 years in the legislature, we fought very hard to find a plan to put us on the road to eliminating the income tax. We ended up with the largest tax cut in history, but we still, I felt like, had work to do to get to a point of total elimination. And Trey has continued to fight that fight. So this is, I believe, his proposal, yet another proposal. You may recall, Paul, that in the last, like I said, 2 or 3 years, I think one session we brought forward 7 different proposals to eliminate the income tax.
Yeah.
One of them passed 107 to 4. We had 32 Democrats that even voted for the plan. And they went down the hall and never got a hearing on the other end of the building. So I think Trey's continuing to fight that fight, trying to find a way that we can put more money back in the pockets of Mississippians, which we believe will help them improve their quality of life on a number of levels. So,
or understanding also the process in the House and Senate, where you have to open up these the idea and start talking about it. And if it doesn't happen this year, maybe it'll happen next year.
Yes, sir. That happens a lot on a lot of different issues. You have to start the conversations and continue to try to analyze all the different angles and find a solution that everybody can live with.
I was just looking at some of the numbers here on some other information. I have state income fiscal year spending for this year, $6.6 billion. The current state of the fiscal collection, $7.6 billion. The current general sales tax rate in Mississippi is 7%. So lowering that, or I probably need to get it back on to explain this one, but it basically says state reduces the state income tax to 3.9% effective January of next year. State reduces the individual income tax 3.9% effective next year, which is another $400 million cut. So.
And one side note to that, Paul, your listeners may recall and may be very well versed, but any tax bill like that is a 3/5 vote on both ends of the building.
Yeah.
So it's a higher threshold to achieve an income tax elimination bill than other general bills.
First of all, let me ask you, what's your view from the press box now, since you're not there? How things are going? Anything surprise you?
Oh, I continue to watch the developments. I obviously have many friends that are still there and continue to talk to them about what's going on, and just glad that I don't have to put up with the stress that went along with that sometimes.
Do you catch yourself saying, has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine?
I probably said that 1,000 times over 12 years. And Tim Ford told me that when I first came on as speaker. He said, "You will say that 1,000 times. You'll be able to say it. You can't
leave a meeting now without saying it.
I know. Rise and report, all those kinds of things. So
some of the votes that have been. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Some of the votes that have been happening are not close on some of these things. Were you surprised at the Medicaid vote?
The vote in the House, I think, was 90 to 20 or something like that, 92 to 22 maybe. Yes, that was a strong statement in favor of that bill. That is something we opposed when I was there. I obviously have been opposed to that for a long time. So that's something that the House apparently wanted to do, and we'll see where that ends up.
Yeah. Do you think the work requirement, because the way we have it now is, if you take a look, and I have it here somewhere, the the differences in the House and Senate. They've got to come together. It's got to be in conference. But even if they get by all of that, the governors sent out enough signals that you'd better have enough votes to override a veto.
Right. I think the work requirement, I think Mississippians, I think your listeners would demand and require some sort of requirement. These are the working poor, as they keep calling them. These are people who have the ability to work.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Mississippians want that. I would be, at a very minimum, think that should be a part of the bill, that if we're going to provide health care to this group, they have the ability to, they need to be working in order to get those benefits. I think Mississippians would require that. I think your listeners require that. I think the Senate plan has that, but I think there's some loopholes there. I haven't studied either plan, so I'm telling you what I understand. But with a doctor's excuse under the Senate plan, you can still qualify. Well, we all know there are a lot of doctors who are very lenient and loose, and they would give out those excuses without much proof. There's also a requirement, I think, that if you have a kid that's below 6, then you automatically qualify. I think these are some things that need to be tightened up in the Senate plan.
Well, I think, didn't Fillingham have an amendment to stop that, and it failed? I think as far as the amendments were the doctor's excuse.
I don't recall that.
No.
I don't know if he'd offered that in the meeting, in the committee meeting, or if he did that on the floor.
Good point.
I think that's got to be tightened up. I just don't think we can have wide open abuse.
The difference is the work requirements are 120 months or 30 weeks, and I think the House is 20 weeks.
Yes,
so
sir.
You've got to put in at least 30 hours a week to be eligible in the Senate version. It passed the Senate by a vote of 36 to 16. The Senate, of course, did a strike all to the House bill that the House bill set the FPL, the federal poverty level, at 138%, and requested the CMS waiver for work requirement, but will begin enrollment even if the work requirement was denied. That was the House. The Senate says we're not going to start it until we have until we get the waiver. Senate version set the FPL also at 100%, not 138%. So the Senate version that they've sent to the House for conference is 100%, translating to an annual income of $15,000, or a family of 4, $31,000. One more thing. Senate version also states that the Medicaid expansion is null and void without work requirement waiver from CMS, as I mentioned. So those are some differences, and they've got to come together.
Yes, they do, and we'll be watching how that progresses. You mentioned going to conference. That is likely where this bill is headed. The way that process works, anytime the House passes a bill and the Senate passes a bill and they're not the same, and they won't agree to take the other side's version, they send the bill to conference, wherein the lieutenant governor puts up 3 senators, the House Speaker puts up 3 House members, and those 6 individuals get in a room and try to hammer out an agreement. And if they do, that's what they call a conference report, and it's returned to both chambers, usually at the end of the session, to either vote up or down. You mentioned the 16 no votes in the Senate. In order to sustain a governor veto, I think you need 18 votes. That's assuming everybody, all 52 people are there. But the governor would need 18 no votes to sustain a veto should he veto the bill. And they've posted 16, so they're going to have to find 2 more no votes if the governor vetoes the bill, and they're going to sustain that veto.
You're turning to the economic health of our state, which has been bright. And your footprint is on there from the time you've served and the decisions made as far as the Speaker is concerned, and the House, of course, and the Senate. But you look at all of the good news that we had since January, when you start talking about the data center locations in the capital city area, and of course the Marshall County plant for the big battery plant. Just touch on that when we come back in a moment or two.
Okay.
The former Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, right after this. Any baseball games you gone to over the weekend? Are you?
No, sir. I actually was turkey hunting, and I believe I may be the worst turkey hunter in all of Mississippi. But I nevertheless gave it a shot, and I did get one. Got one turkey.
Yeah.
So other than that, I did watch a little basketball. My Baylor Bears got put out of the tournament last weekend, and that was disappointing to me. And then I watched my Baylor women lose, and it's just I've lost interest there. So
This has been kind of a downer as far as the Final Four this year.
yeah, I'm ready for baseball to crank up. As you know, I have three sons. All of them were
that's what I was asking.
baseball
Are they
players.
all out of it now, or is
Oh, I've got
anybody
grandsons
playing?
now, so we're coming. We're cycling back through with
I got you.
baseball, and they've got games tonight. They got 3 games this week, in fact, tonight, tomorrow night, and Thursday. So I'm excited about that. And I know you're a great hunter, Paul, because I have dove hunted with you, and I have seen.
I've turned it all over.
Ability.
I'm not able to do it now, but I've turned it over to the grandson, and that's where he was every weekend, deep in the woods.
There you go. That's
deep
great.
in the woods. As a matter of fact, he got one on opening day, and he was really proud of that.
Wonderful.
So
good for him.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
The aluminum plant, Golden Triangle, Amazon data centers in Madison, the EV battery place in Marshall County. Caleb Sailors, one of our crack team on news, has another story this morning on SuperTalk. Another aluminum-based company coming to our state in the Golden Triangle. Aluminum processing company Owl's, O-W-L, Owl's Head Alloys. It's going to be locating its operations in Clay County with another $29 million investment that's expected to create another 80 or 68 new jobs. So
that's great. Those are all good. Those are all great stories. Good job creation in the state. I will point out another bill. I think it's 3601 that Josh Harkins is sponsoring, which is going to play off of the data center, the Amazon deal that came, and it's going to hopefully create opportunities for more of those data centers to come to Mississippi. It is a bill that did pass the Senate last week. It's now going over to the House, and it provides some incentives to get more data centers around the state. So our neighboring states, Arkansas, Louisiana, are trying to get into this game, and I think it's another opportunity for us to create more jobs in our state.
Where do you think we need to concentrate? Is number one school choice. Everybody around us is doing that as far as school choice is concerned. And it just seems to be one of the things that we're going to be headstrong in and very doubtful. I was a little surprised that the initiative process also is not going to make it this year.
Well, the school choice thing is something that I think Republicans support. I think we should support it. I think we need to get behind that. Mm-hmm. I think the rewrite of the education formula, as you recall, may not recall, Paul, but about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe longer, we tried to do that. Actually passed the House, went to the Senate where it did not, where it got killed on the Senate floor. But the rewrite of the formula is something that needs to be done. I think the House has a plan called the Inspire Act. I would encourage people to support that. But the opportunities to improve our educational system are there, and I think we need to jump on it and take advantage of that.
It is amazing that when you get, certainly by halftime in any legislative session, the House and Senate develop their own personality, certainly in the first year of a four-year term. Right. And this one has, and the Senate's has their version or their personality, and the House has his personality, but it's bluer in the House than it is in the Senate. But we thought probably that would be the opposite by the beginning of the year. But your thoughts on that?
Well, this session is what we call the extended session. It is the first session of a new term, and that is a 120-day session. And I will tell you, 90 days is too long to be down there with everybody. 120 is sure too long to be down there with everybody. You get weary, you get tired, tempers get short, and it's a much more difficult session to navigate. So I understand we are probably a month away from finishing this session. They had talked about trying to shorten it. I don't see that happening. I think that's always a good goal to have, and maybe they can, but they got a lot of work to do if they're going to finish by May 1st. Today's April 1st, so you got a month, and they got a budget to do. They've got all these bills they still got to pass. They've got the conference part of the session to go. You got these major issues that you and I have been talking about that are still out there. They got a lot to do. I don't see them finishing earlier than scheduled, but I could be wrong.
The Capitol complex begun earlier. You guys were talking about this for a while. It's morphed now in different ways. Your thoughts on where it is now as far as the Capitol complex and what we need to do there? Philip Gunn, former speaker, by the way, is my guest.
Well, I get nothing but positive reports about Capitol Police in the downtown Jackson area. As you know, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe longer than that, we created the Capital City Improvement District, CCID, and that was an effort to implement a state presence within the areas of downtown, or at least where the state properties lie, and that would run from the medical center to the north side to downtown area on the south side, from Jackson State over to the interstate east and west. That became so popular that there was a request to expand that area, and we did that. And now the geographic area is much larger, and we gave Capitol Police the authority to go into that area and enforce the law, not just on state properties. I get nothing but positive reports about how that has improved the safety of the area. We still have work to do in Jackson, though, Paul. I'm telling you, there's a lot of problems that need to be addressed, but this is certainly a step in the right direction.
It's the same thing. I opened up the program this morning, and I think I put a lot of people in doldrums by mentioning the crime report a little bit too early this morning, but in the state of Mississippi and nationwide, these teenagers.
I saw. I heard that.
It's just one after the other, and they have this big powwow in St. Louis to sit there and try to figure out how to stop this. But I think everybody knows how to stop it.
You know how to stop it. You're exactly right.
You just got to do it. You can't stop. Stop talking about it and do it.
And they got all these places you're talking about, and I'm not so naive as to think crime doesn't exist everywhere. But these stories like you told are these places where they have decided we don't need police presence, and it's terrible to make people follow the law and put them in jail. You've got to have some sort of consequence for that type of action.
There was another one here. Houston, Texas Mayor John Whitmire, a Democrat, provided a bleak warning during the City Hall meeting last week. He said Houston is broke as he proposed a 5% cut across the city spending to alleviate the cash flow problem. They don't have a rainy day fund in Houston, and the city of Houston, Texas, one of the oil-rich cities, is broke.
Absolutely.
And then you start looking at California in the billions in the hold.
Oh, yes, sir. That's right. And that just goes to show, you mentioned for the break about the financial condition of our state, which I'm very proud. We held the line on spending. These places are the places where they just go crazy and they spend it all, and they have no ability to accommodate for these problems that they have that arise.
I'm wondering what the mindset is going to be on our college-age kids now, because there's always this thing, get your degree in flight and fly to another state. Go to California, go to Denver, skiing, beautiful things. Then they hear all these stories, and these stories are real as far as the livability and the affordability of rent and everything else. And I think it's a perfect time where they come back and say, well, maybe staying in Mississippi is a good idea.
I hope that's exactly right, Paul. And we have worked hard to we mentioned Trey Lamar earlier. I know he had a bill on brain drain a few years ago to address this exact problem, where we're trying to keep our young people here in the state. And we got to have jobs for them. That's a reality. But if they want to raise a family, and I have so many of my friends that did this. They left Clinton. They went off to Dallas, Atlanta, Nashville, where life was exciting. And then they got pregnant, and they were like, I don't want to raise my kid in this environment. And they come back to Mississippi because of the values that we have, the quality of life we have here. And, if you want Disney World, we don't have that in Mississippi. But if you want to raise your family in a great place where the values are strong, this is the place to do that. And we need to get that message to those kids, and hopefully they'll come back.
I think if you have kids, if you want to, and you're in Mississippi, it's a great place to go to vacation if you can afford it, but it's not a place where you want your kids to work. As far as Disneyland or Disney World. Final segment with the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn. It reminds me the name of the song is "Fine Wine," but we have had we've had some interesting, I think is the word, as far as alcoholic bills move through.
Well, there's a wine called Gallo. Is that yours?
Yes, no bit of that at all, but.
Oh, come on. You don't get
as much as I do the Blue Nun, so no connection to either one of those. Anything about your present job, what you're doing now? Or
doing government consulting. I have been your friend Lucian Smith, you know who Lucian Smith is. He was kind enough to give me a job. So we're doing some government consulting stuff, and we're advising people, hopefully, to
I gotta
help them
ask
navigate
you this.
this.
I know your tenor and your makeup. What did you think yesterday when you heard this, or either on Saturday whenever it was announced, where where Joe Biden decided to make Easter Trans Visibility Day?
Yeah, I saw that, Paul, and that is clearly a designed attack on, I believe, Easter and on the Christian faith.
Why? Why would he
the
do
timing
that?
of it? If you want to declare that day a day for that, why pick the most holy day of the year for the Christian faith? It was the way I perceived it was clearly offered in opposition to the Christians who are celebrating Easter, the most holy day of the year for the Christian faith. It was designed to be a counter to that. I think most Christians perceived it in that way. You could have picked 364 this year, 365 other days of the year to do that. So I think it was just, and I think our Democratic friends have got to start asking themselves, is this the party I want to be a part of that does that, particularly a Democrat who professes to be a Christian? This is the leader of our country doing this. Do you want to be a part of that? That's the way I perceived it. Now, I may be seeing that wrong, Paul, but I think every Christian out there perceived it in the same way.
Nancy Pelosi once said something to, and I'm paraphrasing her, you win at all cost. You keep power at all costs. If you have to tear the family down, if you have to do anything you do, if you have to tear this country down, if you have to abuse the Constitution, you win at all cost. And that seems to be what they're doing.
You're right.
And I said it was a former, it is not, Orlando Magic star Jonathan Isaac. He joined in on and ripping the president's scene on X, formerly Twitter. The White House knows exactly what they're doing. Here's what he said. He said, they want you to hate. This helps nobody and only promotes division. They know exactly what they're doing. We should be angry, but we should not lose the spirit of what tomorrow means. Don't lose focus. He was talking about Easter. Because he has risen, there is hope for all of us. But, I mean, to me, it seems like there are even a lot of Democrats who still have a soul left that felt this was the wrong thing to do, especially when you've already got 4 months set aside period in different spots of the year to celebrate trans or LGBTQ.
Well, from a political standpoint, I don't understand the strategy behind that statement. Mm-hmm. What if Joe Biden had just remained silent on the issue? He would not have stirred up a hornet's nest. But by saying this, he has poked the eye of a whole large segment of this society. I don't understand the political strategy behind that.
But here is what is really a little bit scary in that not knowing and that confusion. There's only two options. Either he is so feeble when somebody tells him about this and go out and say this or that or issue this proclamation, he has no control over it. He doesn't know what's going on. And if that's the case, then the people who are pulling the strings are doing so because they have the voice in this country, whether it's ecosystems, the environmentalists, PETA, the climate control people, or a deep state that wants that division. There are not a lot of options out there.
I agree with that. I think every one of us who watches him on television do not have confidence. We do not have confidence that he is in charge. I think there are people behind the scenes who are pulling the strings. He's a puppet, and he's just up there. And that is a concern, too, because there's apparently a large group of people behind him who are advocating for these types of positions.
You ever use AI and ask a question on AI, artificial intelligence?
I don't know that I have.
There was an X post that went viral over the weekend and asked AI, is America declaring National Transgender Visibility Day on Easter an attempt to replace Christianity with Satanism? This is AI, which is supposed to do it impartially.
Yeah.
I'll give you that the next half hour. I thank you, sir. It's always
great
good
to be with
see
you, Paul. Thank you for having me
Don't
on.
be a stranger. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Take care. Philip Gunn, former Speaker.